Black Wall Street, Tulsa massacre. I don't know if you caught Joe Biden's speech yesterday on it, but 100 years, and no president has even spoken of this. 100 years, and frankly, certainly most white Americans had no idea about this until the last year or 3 or 5. And I'm guessing probably most Americans generally didn't know about it across the board. But what is even more shocking is that it's one of many. I mean, people are horrified by the fact that airplanes were being flown by white people in Tulsa over over Black Wall Street and dropping bombs out of them in 1921. But, they did that in 1985 with Project Move in Philadelphia. In 1863, there were the so-called draft riots. And keep in mind, I mean, in fact, even in Tulsa, it had always historically been referred to, at least in the white press, as a race riot, which is just a coded racist phrase for black people behaving badly, right? We all know what, quote, race riot means. And that certainly is not what it was. It was a massacre of black people by white people. Well, the draft riots in 1863 in New York City, same deal. In Camilla, Georgia in 1868, black people slaughtered by white people. These are not cases of, a dozen people got killed or some guys got lynched I mean, these are like major taking out pieces of cities, destroying people's lives. I mean, just massacres. In 1868 in Opelousas, Louisiana. Now, this was during Reconstruction. This was white people still trying to fight the Civil War and still trying to maintain slavery. In 1873 in Colfax, Louisiana. In 1886 in Carrollton, Mississippi. In 1887 in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Are you starting to notice a trend, by the way? In 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina. In 1917 in East St. Louis. In Elaine, Arkansas, and many other cities during the Red Summer of 1919, and of course in Tulsa in 1921, and then there was another after that in 1923 in Rosewood, Florida. In every single case, the black death tolls were minimized in the press, or the white press didn't even reference the black death tolls. They would point to white deaths. In every single case, police reports were falsified. In every single case, they were referred to as race riots rather than massacres. In many of these cases, torture was used to elicit confessions from black people who had survived these massacres to prove that the white people didn't start the massacre. In every one of the cases that I just shared with you, there were mass graves, unmarked mass graves. In most of these cases, men and women were threatened that if they even discussed what happened with outsiders, they would be confronting torture or death. Libraries were purged of periodicals that dared to tell the truth, is the phrase that True Blue Majority writes over the Daily Kos. Learning the real history of this country would break you, is the headline. And it's like, yeah. I mean, there literally were laws passed prohibiting teachers from even mentioning these events in public schools in these states where these things happened. And now you've got Republicans all across the country trying to make it illegal for teachers to teach just the basic history of the United States because it might make white people uncomfortable. How are we going to move forward in this country in any way if we don't confront our past? You know, one of the commentators yesterday on TV made a comment that just, I was like, whoa, yes, we are not talking about the, he said, what the Republicans are trying to do is prevent a multiracial democracy from happening. Multiracial. The Republican Party is almost entirely white. It has become essentially the party of white supremacy. The Democratic Party is very diverse. It is fulfilling the ideals, anyway, that were articulated at the founding of this republic, certainly not acted on and to this day. It is time that we taught this in our schools, this history. It's time that we recognize that this is our history. It's time that we work, to create a multiracial democracy, a pluralistic society, an accepting society. This is the essence of democracy. We're all in, right? Demos, the people, all of the people. Not just the white people or the straight people or the male people, all of the people, or the wealthy people. We've got a hell of a lot of work to do here, and we're up against these crazies from these three groups I defined, and then you got a new religion on top of it.